Good morning and greetings from Northumberland. It's Saturday, the 11th of July, and it's a beautiful, bright morning after the weather extremes of yesterday afternoon and evening. So let's hope for a better day. Today is also the feast of St. Benedict, and this is an important feast in the history and development of the Church. And a number of monastic communities will be holding festivals in a new way this year. I was looking at the news from the Community of the Resurrection in Mirfield. They have a virtual festival, an online festival this year, because St. Benedict is the key figure in Western monasticism. He lived about 500, 550, and he was Italian. He studied in Rome, but he found the life of Rome much too distracting, and he withdrew and began to live a more ordered and regular life outside the city, and drew other people to him until there were several communities. He met with opposition from the church and from local parish priests, and eventually withdrew to the area which we could call Monte Cassino, and there he formed another religious community. And he wrote a rule, that regulated the life of the monastic community. That it covered hospitality, it covered recreation, it covered prayer, it covered rest. It above all covered the role of the abbot incarnating the love of God in that community, and the response to the abbot from the rest of the community. It was so successful that it spread throughout the church, and that's why Benedict is called the father of Western monasticism. And he took, as you would studying these things, stuff from St. Anthony of Egypt, and modified it for his own context. Now, because of Benedict and his rule and reformed editions of his rule, monasticism spread over northern and western Europe. And if you wander around England, of course, you find the very many relics and ruins of monastic communities, as well as many of our great cathedrals, which were originally monastic foundations. So he has made a mark. He's made a mark on the landscape, and he's made a mark upon the church. So why is it important for people like me and you who are not monastics? Why is this rule important? Well, early on in lockdown, I talked to you about the experiences of a lady called Egeria, who was a very early monastic, who went to the Holy Land and experienced the prayer and the life, morning and evening, of the Christian community. And I spoke a lot in those early days about the regulation of our life, punctuated by prayer. And I don't know about you, but for me, this period of lockdown has been one of the most regular periods of prayer in the whole of my 64 years. It's up there with the time when I was in theological college and other times when I was very, very regulated in my prayer. And I feel that's been fruitful for my life. And I think it's important that what Benedict does is he says that the whole of life needs to be ordered. It needs to be organized in such a way that it's God-facing. And so, as I said, Benedict talks about prayer, the work of God. He talks about physical work, he talks about mental work, he talks about recreation, and he talks about rest. And all of it is in a God-centered world. But of course, a rule of life is not just something for a monastic person. A rule of life actually is very fruitful for any Christian person, that we seek to regulate our lives in such a way that our lives are God-facing. I think it's something that we could fruitfully develop, each one of us in our own context, in our own situation, but taking those principles of prayer and work and rest and family time and all those things and putting them together into a regulated rule of life that is not an oppression, but which gives us freedom to live our lives in a God-centered way. And in the West, our understanding of how to do that is guided and informed by the life of St. Benedict. So we give thanks to God for his life and pray that God will bless us in our Christian journey.